Dear precious Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude and appreciation for this time together. We thank you for the opportunity to gather and learn from one another. We thank you for our great love and our blessings over our lives. We thank you. We ask that wherever we go, let us spread love, peace, goodness, and faithfulness. We ask for your blessings, grace, and peace to be upon us. We ask that you give us that heart of wisdom to hear your voice and make us strong by your huge favor and grace. We thank you for what you've done for us, and we thank you for what you will do. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. Next, Dr. David Jeffries, LC.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, and welcome to our campus as usual. I just want to thank each and everyone for coming, our distinguished guest and speaker today. And we have so many community leaders here, it's just an honor to always be able to host you. The question I get more than anything is how is the presidential search coming? So I spoke to our presidential search committee chairman this morning. He said it's going well. They're in the process of taking many resumes, getting down to a few resumes right now. So they're still in process, on schedule where they hope to be, and prayerfully in February, our board of trustees will be able to vote on the next president for Louisiana Christian University. Thank each and every one of you. So many of you have helped me out so much over these past months and encouragement in a lot of different ways. And definitely with a great staff and a great community to help out in that. So glad you're here today. Looking forward to hearing our guest speaker and the many others of you will be giving updates today. Good to see you.
If you're an elected official, would you please stand and be recognized? Please give us your name. We have quite a few today. Thank you all for being here. Any names? Too many groups.
Elected officials can't take multiple commands. And we'll show that very soon. Many may have seen that the governor has called us into special session. And we will begin on November 6th through the 25th. And this is a fiscal reform session. We are facing a nearly $1 billion deficit. The governor has taken this as an opportunity to propose some tax reforms that will move us more in line with states who are much more lower income tax and move us much more in line with other states that are certainly more successful with business and growth. And so you'll hear a lot more about that. It's still an evolving matter. There's 24 items, I believe, on the call, but that could change depending on what bills are filed. But we'll know more about that as we approach. I'm spending lots of time in Baton Rouge, which I certainly am honored to do, but I do miss Pineville when I'm not able to be here. But stay tuned. We'll have some more information. We certainly hope there'll be a good educational plan on what's being proposed by the governor and the benefits that he believes will be derived from that. I didn't mention this before, but I want to say this. This is a point of personal privilege. I hope all of you will keep Elizabeth Trish in your prayers. Of course, we all know Sherman, and his wife had a medical issue that came up over the weekend, and she was at Cabrini. Certainly, they mean a lot to us, and I hope you will keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Let's get right to the program. You may notice, I don't know how you could not notice, but our mayor from Ball is not here today. But she wants me to tell you about nothing about the sewer, nothing about any of that, or their rock garden, but about their boudoir. And and that is on, the 29th, which I guess is tomorrow night at, she didn't say, 5 or 6 o'clock. Just show up and they'll be walking. That may be her right there. It must be 6 o'clock. But you know what? We hope that she will be here, next month. I'm not sure we're having a meeting next month, but we hope she will be here next month. And, we will have some extra time today. City of Pineville, I know that all of you are familiar with what's going on over the last couple of months, resulting in the resignation of our previous mayor, and we're in the process of, our city council is in the process of making decisions on who will lead us going forward, and so our council president pro tem, Mary Galloway, is here today, and I appreciate her being here. This is a full-time job you didn't necessarily expect to have, and I think you've done a wonderful job thus far, and I appreciate you so much, and would like you to come and just kind of bring us up to date and tell us. I think we got a moonwalk in Pineville too, so I think look here on this, I think we've got a vision, so Mary, thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces out there today. And I just want to assure everyone, as you've heard, that Mayor Dupree stepped down on October the 20th. And as a council, we are selecting an interim, and we're very committed to it. And we're going to keep everyone updated on it as we go along. We've got some fun stuff tomorrow night from 6 to 8, the Pineville Festival, Fall Festival is great at Keys Park. It's $1 cash money. This Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m. is trick or treat. And the police department will be out up and down the streets to make sure all the children are safe. And we got a lot going on in December. On December the 1st at the riverfront, from 4 to 9 is food, music, and we're gonna top it out with fireworks on the river. And then the next day on December the 2nd opens up Keys Park with Christmas in the Pines at 5 p.m. The whole Keys Park will be lit up very, very nice. And don't forget about our Christmas parade on December the 13th at 7 p.m. on Main Street. And these events are just about having fun, coming together as a community. And I hope to see lots of you out there for our events. And I want to say we appreciate everyone that's been part of it for us, and thank you.
Thank you, Mary, very much, and I think you can count on the folks here continuing to pray for you and for our city. I'm convicted here. There was a 70% chance that he would be here today. Well, I can tell you that he's missed. Tom is our resident meteorologist who has been in the community for like 45 years. And, but I tell you what, we do have a forecast. And I'm surprised he's not here doing his dance about the rain on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But I didn't want to hear his forecast for any more hurricanes. But in any event, please, we'll let him know that he was missed. And I'm sorry he's not here. Bubba Kirkland, you're here from the disaster relief. Where are you at, Bubba? You're just back from Florida. Can you give us a quick idea of what it's like and what we were able to do to help over there with the Baptist disaster relief?
Yes, sir. We moved into Georgia after the first hurricane with our local equipment. And then we stayed there, and we moved to Clearwater, Florida after that. And we just come home Saturday, Florida, and pretty much ending all of the out of state aid, as well as North Carolina. So all of our teams are coming in. Georgia is still needing outside help. We have several teams there, and we'll be moving into Georgia next week.
Well, we appreciate it. That's sometimes we're an unsung group of folks that take this task on, and we just thank you for leading it and doing the good deeds to spread our Christian charity and help for those people most in need. So thank you, Bobby. Good to have you here today. And I want to also, our president of the police jury, Joe Bishop, do you have any updates you'd like to bring us on police jury?
Well, thank you, Mike. Before we let the citizens know, we have some current renovations at the Refuge Parish Courthouse with our office funds. We started on the top floor of the courthouse, doing lighting, HVAC, and everything, and slowly moving down. So we can move some of the judges around, the courtrooms around, so that we can move if your court cases, some of the other cases. We're gonna have to move some of the people out of the courthouse, and we're gonna renovate them just down the road there. There's two factories, life insurance building, 200 units, rented for approximately a year and a half to house people with legitimate renovations going on. We also get some new elevators in the Refuge Parish Courthouse through all the funds, and that's a very much planned. It's one-time money, so we put it we don't have tax dollars. Appreciate y'all.
Joe, will the actual court, like if you're called for a jury trial as a juror, will they be in the courthouse or will they be?
No, they will be in the courthouse. Courthouse will still have all the courtrooms open unless it's working.
So if anybody was thinking they were going to slip out of jury duty by saying, "I'm not going to be asking for a friend." And let's do our round table. We've got a little time today, and we haven't been able to do that. Let's go around the table for anybody that has anything. Gabe Furman from Grant Parish, thank you for coming over. You got any reports? Well, and you got your shoes on and everything, and I'm just so appreciative of that.
Invite everybody about to come festival. Mayor Wilkie will be rolling out Han favorite moon pie. Come out to all guys and have a good time. And I'm so looking forward to going to Baton Rouge.
How many meals am I going to have to pay that you don't bring your wallet this year?
I do want to take this opportunity to thank Attorney General Carl. What a pleasure it is that Andrew and Attorney General who were fighting for certain values, not just here, but across the nation, and we're already seeing benefits of some of the reforms we've passed in the spring and our state already. So thanks you, and looking forward to it. Appreciate it.
I have the honor of being one of numerous attorneys that are joining her lead on fighting the Biden bill regarding transgenders and students, and we will be in New Orleans next Monday for that. So I am honored. She has taken the lead for the Refuge Parish School Board. We have our own attorney, but she has been the champion for that among many other things. So thank you for bringing that up. How about the airport? Anything, Scott? Would you like to?
We got a lot of construction going on right now. We are. And while we're doing that, we do that to support Fort Johnson. They have a lot of military coming in there. Basically, they got primary runways, we make sure we do everything we can to support Fort Johnson. So there's a lot of things going on. Met the airlines last week, and 3 days was coming. We just talked to be in 2045, and maybe we'll get United back. We're working that very hard. But increase the size of their aircraft in California, and Delta last month increased 3 flights there. It's going very well.
And United is a Charlotte flight?
It is United here to teach you. And we are American flight to Charlotte, and we are working with them to try to get that flight back.
Superintendent Jeff Powell. Y'all, many people may not have known who you were. And I wanted to,
I do want to echo our just for Attorney General for about properly, there's management impact on high school and how we are making sure that our high school students get opportunities to engage in workplace experiences. You heard me and Jeff back in August. So if we have not come to the door and we want to talk to you a little bit about how we can build internships and workplace experiences for our students, please open the door up to the people. And I know Deb was saying we're in conversations with people in Department of Education. We have a big meeting with our partners right here in Congress, the president this coming week, and before the March last week. So thank you for always supporting the work that's going on in our schools. I hope you continue to see the progress that we're making with our students and our community today. Right here, we're putting in direct experience, all of the schools, the area, and the rest of the board, and everything we have to do.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jason, good? This specially called meeting was really on behalf of deer all over America.
The governor don't really have to step it up. She can pick up the phone, call us, go see her, go always over. And I tell you, it's very important. Look, doing this special thing, and we need to hear from y'all. We've got a lot of things on this agenda that's going to be affecting Louisiana for the next 20, 30 years possibly. So it's a work in progress. We can see right now it's probably not going to be the final product. But look, hold it in, because I would think this is going to be probably one of the most exciting sessions we've had in a long time. It's a start for us. We don't have to watch that much. It'll be a lot of things going on. We want to hear from you, and help us make good decisions. Right back. I'm very good about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, you're here with Congressman Lettlow's office. Anything you want to report on? You can still join us even afterwards. Thank you. Ben Russo from the port.
Morning.
And I want to mention you were recently appointed to a particularly important board for the port, a new port board, right?
The governor has a ports and waterways investment commission to outline where the money for the state is going to go to for various ports and waterways, and I'm representing the inland ports to try to make a case to invest in North Louisiana and Central Louisiana from that standpoint. And we're doing great. We've got, I guess, this nice weather has really helped us out. We're like at the airport. We've poured concrete this morning for a bridge, so we 45 acres that we have for development. They're pouring walkways to the production building that we have. We're finishing up the last part of the foreign trade zone activation that we've been working on. And we went out to bid last Friday for extension of a hard stand for the military. We're like the airport from the standpoint of working with Fort Johnson. Fort Johnson, if you don't know, has about a $1.75 billion impact on Louisiana economically, over $250 billion impact for rapid storage alone. So anything that we can do to supplement and help Fort Johnson utilize our central Louisiana area only helps the economy. And we're working towards helping them moving or putting in like water like they do 1 to 3 times a year.
Thank you. And working very hard for some upcoming projects that will make a difference in our community.
Correct.
So enjoy working with your office. Anybody else? Anybody on the front row? I see you've got several city councilmen. Not trying to put you on the spot, but I want to give you an opportunity. Judge, we got 2 judges. Anything you'd like to? Judge Beard? Thank you.
I was just concerned with Joe Bishop said the judges were moving out of the courthouse, I was kind of concerned. Please clarify that we're working with
Anybody else over here? Tommy Payne, how are you?
Oh, doing great, Mike.
Tell us about your recent work. You've been with some of our FFA and future home builders.
Oh, absolutely, especially our local, we established 2 student chapters, high school student chapters, one at Talbot, and one at, Mr. David Stewart, there at High. Then I got to teach. But we had 4 regional competitions with these kids, they were all farm competitions. We had one in the North Shore area, one in, Anacoco, Raleigh area, one down in Crowley, and one in Monroe. And we took the four top teams of each regional and brought them to the LSUA Ag Center, the evacuation center. And we did a championship contest there. And Grant Parish was our only local team that was in the running, and they were tied for 4th. What they did, it was an all-girls team, which, by the way, they did take the local for the girls team took the local, they won first place in the local. But it was a great competition, and this is, if you've never wanted to see a workforce, a group of young kids being active in a workforce development project, you need to come see us next year. It's unreal. The good kids are still there. They just get ignored a lot, so we're trying to bring them up to the front.
Thank you for all the hard work that you, every hour you spend on that is an hour you're not doing your job, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing that. I mean, it means a lot that you're taking. Anybody else? Buck, spend a lot of time with you lately.
Well, thank you. Talking about that education, our Forestry Foundation awarded 60 scholarships to students studying forestry throughout the state of Louisiana. Over $80,000 to students with opportunities for workforce development. And just Friday over at Georgetown High School, we awarded some students there that participated in the forestry club. The top forestry student there won first place in this Area 2 competition. So really exciting things for young people, mentoring opportunities, job opportunities that Dr. Smith was working on. So really some good things happening, and business, Beaver Lake Renewables over in Pineville continues to move forward. And that's going to be a big help for our local area, our industry, and all over the forest.
What do they say, $50 to $75 million a year in wood product that they'll be buying from our lumberers?
And I'd also like to publicly thank Representative Senior Pro Tem Mike Johnson for his work in the legislature on the beetle infestation committee that's trying to bring some relief to homeowners. The drought that affected so many dead and dying trees across the state around homes, power lines, rights of way, trying to bring some relief to homeowners and the public, removing these hazardous trees.
Thank you. Thank you. Wouldn't it be something if when I'm through with all this, that's what I'm remembered for? Beetle infestation. You gotta be known for something. You have a Randolph, the Central Louisiana Chamber of Commerce.
Really, it's dramatic to move judges out of the building, but right now, if you're looking for it at the chamber, we're not in our building at 1118 Third Street, because the building next door to us is being demolished, and it's actually connected to the chamber building. So right now, we are at 1501A Wimbledon in Alexandria at the John Leonardo Business Development Center for about a month, so that building can be taken down. So our phone numbers work, so you can still call us and email us at our normal numbers and our normal email addresses. So we're there for right now. We have in conjunction with Rotary, the Chamber's hosting U.S. Senator John Kerry tomorrow, and then we'll be sending out very soon the information for the Chamber annual meeting, which will be December 4th. That's what they offer. Sending out those things. we've been working, over the past year with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and Louisiana Central. The Chamber is that third partner on some new branding for Central Louisiana relative to being more competitive with attracting talent, and generally promoting our area. So, watch for this coming out. I think it's really, gonna be something that you're proud of, and, new messaging and branding and logos to promote our region.
And Convention and Visitors Bureau, I don't know if anyone's here from that group today. They're doing a great job. There was a half-page, a three-quarter page article yesterday in the Baton Rouge Advocate about sites and tourism opportunities here in Central Louisiana. So that's
They're
great.
doing a great job.
It really is. Dr. Correll? I see you wiped out a good portion of the squirrels in some undisclosed portion of the state. There will be a bill. Eagles and squirrels.
Last time I was here, last month, we reported on enrollment of 68 and 15 students. There's two fall semesters, there's the first fall and second fall. Between the first fall and second fall, we had 600 more students, we're at 7,400 students. Put it in perspective, because I think it means something the other way. We're now ahead in enrollment of undergraduate students in Louisiana, like Nice, Nichols, University of New Orleans, University of Louisiana, Monroe, Randall. We're sixth in terms of enrollment. And I would predict by next fall, I'm not going to predict, but it's going to be high. Because we have a lot of students, and a lot of people coming in the fall. I hate to tell you, because we had 5,000, we go down to 7,400 now. We do need housing. We are working and negotiating with a public-private partner to build more housing on campus. Because we do need, we have 150 students waiting for housing now. And it requires us to go to the board to get approved. And you're going to see a lot more happening. We have our student success center at the academy. Lately, it's really coming up. And downtown, hopefully this time next year, we'll be building a 4-story health education center in downtown Alexandria for the region and also the nursing shortage that we have. So we're really excited about that. We think the legislature, the local community, and the chamber, and everybody supporting us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
There's one thing I forgot to tell everybody. On November the 11th, I think it's at 10 o'clock, is the Veterans Day Parade at the VA hospital.
Which is 2 weeks from today? Is that right? 2 weeks from today. Great. And you'll have something on the website, and we'll certainly share that. Michelle Pearl.
So we have a lot of great things going on at United Way. One of the main things we've been working on is, as we talk about attracting new industry here, the other thing that we have to be aware of is the people that remain here. And those are the people that can't afford to move, and we do have to be able to reach out to them and embrace them into our community. So we've been working on a prosperity summit, which is November 8th at Alexandria City Hall. And what that is it's Dr. Beagle. She was homeless for 16 years and got her GED when she was 26. And she has already come down once and presented to share how we can become a more poverty-informed community. And what that means, it doesn't mean a whole bunch of new programs or we're giving handouts and doing those kinds of things. What it does is it means looking at our resources and how are we managing them and how are we embracing those people and ensuring that they can be a part of the community that we're building for the future. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to go anywhere, right? And so we can either pay now or we can pay later. And we pay that in our prime and we pay that in all those other pieces. So I invite you to be a part of that. You can register on our website. She does a great job. She said what she did in Texas was to take people that were receiving Pell Grants. They went from about a 80% or a 30% graduation rate to an 80% graduation rate. And it just had to do with how do we meet people where they're at. So I invite you to be a part of that, and thank you for each of you who is a part of Rain Guide Way and helps us to embrace our community, make them stronger.
Thank you, Michelle. November 8th, right?
Yes, sir.
And-
City Hall.
At what time?
It is 11 to 1, we include the lunch with that.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Dusty Kirkland. I am Bo's daughter, but I am with American Red Cross. I'm the new disaster preparedness specialist for all of Louisiana. So I'm super excited. We were at the mall Saturday, so we asked me out just design preparedness materials, this whole entire season. And so we've already had a lot of my volunteers have been responding to house fires and so on. So we can build up that team and also just
Great to have you here. Obviously, it runs in the family. I know you're proud of her, and we're proud to have her. So thank you for being here. Hope you'll join us again. Anybody on the front row over here, friends? You have something you want to tell us, sir, Robert?
Oh, the roster really well. He's going to start driving tomorrow after 6 weeks, so mother is really pleased.
Are you still driving? Okay. Robert had open heart surgery, and we all know and love Robert and the Anderson family, so I was glad to hear that. Anybody over here? Dr. Carpenter?
Oh, I always loved to brag on Michael High School, where it's the best it's ever been, it's better every day.
People are breaking into that place.
I just wanted to share with parents and grandparents, tomorrow night at the stadium is our trial treat, and all of our school clubs and activities will have, treats for the kids. So bring your kids out, tomorrow night at the stadium. It's a great place to bring them.
Ms. Hotel, our chancellor from CLTCC.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Good to see you. Just a couple of quick updates. We're wrapping up Manufacturing Month. Hard to believe, just 5 years ago, we were cutting the ribbon on the campus just across the river. We have a lot of growth there. We have 100 welding students at the Pico Advanced Manufacturing Center alone. And the great thing about our graduates, no matter where they are studying, they stay in Central Louisiana. We have some that come in and they stay, but most of our students are from here and they stay here. I want to thank our legislative delegation for what they're going to be doing in the month of November. As y'all know, there is a potential for fall every conference that we feel there is going to be sorted out. Speaking of manufacturing, we had a couple of folks at Parkland College. Doug Parker did a wonderful job as a director of manufacturing, retired, and Bert O'Neill has gone over to different colored pastures, and we're very happy for him. But now we've elevated to the position of Associate Vice Chancellor, Mr. John Sanders, who worked for many, many years at Ace Manufacturing. He's now over manufacturing, he's over welding, he's over technical programs for the whole college, graduate of LCU. We're very proud of him. So what we did with those two gentlemen, give Don a call, he'll be happy to take care of you. Very pleased to share that we're almost full on our record 4th cohort for practical nursing. We have doubled our capacity. There's about 10 spots available at the Alexandria campus. If anybody's interested in being a part of the ministry of healthcare, give us a call. We've got a spot for you.
Thank you very much. Charlie Sheridan, our restoration expert coordinator.
Thank you, Mike. I thought you were
Call you something else?
All I've got to say is that after years of talking about the post-direct needs, our board has voted, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I want to shift to Natchitoches. The Cane River Waterway Commission gave $2 million to the city of Natchitoches and a historic organization up there. They pulled apart the 1800, I don't know what the date, the Rock House. It was on the banks of the Cane River and it was deteriorating. $2 million. They pulled that place apart and they moved it, re-landscaped it, and we got to thinking on our board. It is time for us as a board, and they voted to do this, to meet the Red River Waterway Commission. We thank everybody, if it is
Anybody's a member here on that commission, we're gonna make an appointment with you all, and Greg Jones and I are going to go with a state-of-the-art presentation. And you've seen it on our truck, Poster Rapide. Alexander Bible people do not know where civilization began. We don't. You buy my gas, I buy your insurance, you come to see a lawyer or a doctor, we exist. But history is important. It's important for our kids to know where civilization began. And the Poster Rapides, if you look, next time you go over to Jackson Street, when you look to your right, the historic Rapide Cemetery. That's where it was. Father Chad has already said, look, we can figure out how to space it in some property right there. So this is just an introduction. It's time for us to think better about our history in this area. And Poster Rapides is certainly a place to start. I thank you for time to let you do it, preach it.
Yes, sir. I didn't expect any less than that. Anyone else? Senator Dave Allen. David is, of course, here for our Senator Heather Cloud. Anybody else? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Carly mentioned Natchitoches without the great Northwestern State University. A few of you were here a few meetings back. We had our new 21st president, 21st president. We did the investiture this past Friday. Also wanted to commend the England Airport for our initiatives in our campus. And many years that we've been out there. I talked about some renovations going on in the community. We just finished up a renovation, added an additional 24,000 square feet to our existing 40,000 square foot building on England Airport. So we'd like to invite everyone to come out if you can, take a tour of the facility, and show you around the NSU Cenla campus on England Airport.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to remind everyone, I know you're not sure this, but tomorrow is the last day to early vote. I'd like to see you all go out and vote, however you vote, and of course next Tuesday. If you go out before tomorrow, after tomorrow, if something happens next Tuesday, you will have done review.
But if you're in South Louisiana, you can early vote and vote. But that's still the way. James Greer.
He thanks everybody else and very seldom is he recognized. And so we had a wonderful opportunity to go to the Capitol, and man, if you go down there, he treats you like a king. We got to tour that, and one of the things I loved when I went to his office, he was trained, and trained. And his wife was just telling me the story about it. He's not like, everybody wrote to the board the devotion book beyond vows. And I was going to give her if I wanted to come in. But his wife did the best job.
Well, she's ready to.
And so if you would, like I said, we just want to recognize and thank you for everything you've done.
We are, somebody that would have said already. I'm duly honored today to introduce the person who's going to introduce our special guest. Phil Carroll and I go back a long way. You wouldn't know that we're about the same age. And we both called each other in those early years of lawyer, like, you have any idea what you're doing? I said, no. He said, well, I don't either. And we've done that recently too, I think. And we called Liz. But Philip Carroll is our district attorney and my friend, and I'm going to call on him. He is a Louisiana College graduate, and that makes him part of a special family of folks, and someone that I really am honored to have him here today. So if you would welcome Philip, he is going to bring up our special guest.
Mike really does love trying. the Attorney General knows me real well. She looked at this piece of paper I had, she said, please be brief. Right, Ron? Liz Merle is a dynamo. Our Attorney General went to LSU Law School, which is a pretty hard school for those of us that went there. It was for me. It wasn't for her. She was Order of the Court and editor-in-chief of the law review, which means that she's the smartest lawyer there. And then she went on to Pepperdine University and got her master's in law, which is another big deal. And a lot of times lawyers like that are eggheads and sit in rooms and write briefs and all that, but not Liz. She argued 5 cases before the United States Supreme Court as the Solicitor General for the state of Louisiana, when she was the Solicitor General under General Jeff Landry, Attorney General Jeff Landry, before he was elected governor. And she was there arguing against federal overreach. She has fought for the rights of individual Louisianans. She's she made arguments throughout her career against federal overreach for individual people's rights, like when they tried to shut down schools and shut down everything during COVID. She was on our side. She is, Liz is against the things that we're against. She's against people who were born as males participating in girls' athletics. She's against males going in girls' bathrooms. She's for the Second Amendment. She's for us being able to exercise our free speech. I had the opportunity, along with Representative Johnson, Speaker Johnson, and the General Landry, with the Governor Landry, to participate a great deal in the legislation this last summer to, along with Judge Lambert, before he was elected judge. He was the head of the Louisiana District Attorneys Association. District Attorney Jay Lemoyne. We spent a lot of time in Baton Rouge trying to get some teeth in our criminal laws. I cannot tell you how important General Merle's influence was in that. She fights for us every day. And I'm not going to talk anymore than to say that she is my friend, and she is obviously the first female Attorney General of the state of Louisiana. She is a history maker, and she is my dear friend, and I want to welcome her, and y'all please welcome her with us.
I am so privileged to be with you today, and it was a great privilege for me to be here while you conducted the roundtable so that I could hear you talk about everything that's going on here in Rapides Parish, and in your towns and cities, and just in the community. This is a great community. I love this whole area of our state, and it's because of you, and it's because of your core values, and that you know who you are, and you know what we need to fight for. And we'll talk about some of the things that I've been fighting for, which have come from your legislators frequently. So I can tell you that I'm grateful to work with the people that I work with in state government. I've been able to work closely with Jeff Landry, who is now our great governor. Worked closely side by side, arm in arm with him for the last 8 years while he was Attorney General. And we were able to elevate this office to something that I've always believed that it could be and should be. And that is a focal point for justice in the state of Louisiana, and an office that would fight for our liberty under the Constitution and for our right to decide our own laws and our own government structures, which we are entitled to do by the federal Constitution as a sovereign state among other sovereign states. So it is a great privilege for me to now have that job
and to be able to work on taking us to the next level in that vision, which I certainly hope to do. We have weathered some storms here, and every time we have a storm or we face a storm or a crisis, it just reinforces my view that we are people who care about community and care about each other, because we don't ask anybody what their political affiliation is when they need our help. We just get out and help them. And that's always been true, I think, about everybody in our communities, and no matter, how many storms we face, we're always there to help each other. And that says a lot about who we are. But we face the storm now that is the creation of the federal government. And it's a storm and a challenge like none that I've ever seen. Certainly, I'm happy to tell you all that I'm 60, so, I haven't been around prior to that time. I didn't live through some of the periods prior to that time. I was born 2 weeks after John F. Kennedy was shot. And so we have faced challenging times in our nation. We have faced assassination, successful assassinations in our country, brought on by political strife. And we've seen those same attempts occur in recent political life. But how did we get here? I think that this administration has attacked people of faith. It has done that, especially we saw that during COVID, when there was a complete lack of concern or recognition for people of faith and their desire to be exempt from vaccine mandates based on their faith, based on legitimate concerns about how the vaccines were made. And we saw entire states and their leaders, like the governor of New York, who were not only refusing to recognize faith-based exemptions, but were denigrating people of faith and their beliefs. I'm not sure that we've ever seen such hostility to people of faith by the federal government before. The free exercise clause is one of the core elements of the First Amendment. Being free from censorship imposed by the federal government is another pillar of the First Amendment, and we have also seen a great assault on our rights to freedom of speech. We were at the center of that fight, and we've been at the center of a number of important fights, all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, but we were our state partnered with Missouri to challenge a censorship regime that was created by the federal government and spread across multiple state agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security. And so when you started to hear about this Ministry of Truth, which was a shorthand name that came from the Harry Potter books, for an agency that was stood up by the federal government and the Department of Homeland Security to identify misinformation and disinformation and block it. We were victims of that effort, because we saw that truthful speech that the government knew to be true, like the Hunter Biden laptop story, that they decided that it was more important for them to censor it, for us to not hear it and not know about it. And that all occurred during the last presidential administration, so it interfered with the election. It took down protected speech, and it was the federal government who was doing it. So we brought that to the attention, we brought that through this federal lawsuit, and we argued that case in the United States Supreme Court. We didn't have adequate proof of the collusion of the federal government with these big tech companies to take down our speech. Now I want to tell you, we had thousands of pages of documents. We had email traffic between the White House and the tech companies, threatening their Section 230 immunity if they did not take down speech that the government didn't approve of. This kind of conduct threatens our freedom at its very, very core. And that's just one of the things, or two of the things that I can point to that have involved us. We have seen, our legislature has had the vision to challenge some of the jurisprudence on the free exercise clause by passing the Ten Commandments law. Now, that law requires that schools, all the way up through higher ed, post a version of the Ten Commandments in a context that we believe renders it constitutional because the context fits within pre-existing Supreme Court precedent. And so we have illustrated to the federal court in Baton Rouge, and we argued this case in court last Monday, how we think this law is constitutional and all of the ways that we could create posters. And we did. We created 15 posters, and we put them in our briefs to illustrate just some of the ways that we could creatively implement this law in a way that would be constitutional. And we're still fighting that. We're still waiting to see how the judge is going to rule. But that case created a firestorm press activity nationwide. I mean, you would have thought that we threw out the Constitution, but it's not us trying to do that. It's the federal government trying to do that. So, but it was amazing. And the day that this kind of blew up in the press, I happened to be in Washington. And so I had my colleague drive me behind the United States Supreme Court so that I could take a picture of Moses, who sits right at the top of the East Frieze of the United States Supreme Court building, and also is present holding the commandment tablets in about 9 places all through the United States Supreme Court building. And so we put that in our brief too, just to point out that Moses is considered to be one of the primary and original lawgivers in history. And that this is such an important part of our legal history that he is at the center of the East Frieze and in a number of other places at the center in the United States Supreme Court building. So we still await a ruling in that case. We just had another case that will be heard on Thursday in Lafayette that also has some tentacles in this area, and it involves a suit against ICE. We learned very recently that ICE had brought a Chinese national in, picked her up on the border in San Diego. That's a whole question we could ask. How did that happen? I can tell you that based on information from ICE, she traveled starting in April to Vietnam, and then Vietnam to I'm not sure where, all the way through Mexico up to our southern border, crossed our southern border, and was picked up and brought to San Diego. She was flown from San Diego to Alexandria, where she and 39 other people were brought to an ICE facility, and there she had her first medical testing. And I would compliment the facility there. I think they did do the right thing. They identified her as someone who needed medical attention, and they got it for her. They then decided that she needed more attention than they could give her and transferred her to the facility in Bazille, where she was placed, and I'm still not sure why they did this, but put in a general, taken off her meds. They thought they believed she had TB. That facility, they moved her into general population, where she then exposed several hundred more people. And at that point, the state of Louisiana still didn't know about it. So around October 8th, after it was determined that she had a multi-drug resistant strain of tuberculosis, the state was notified. And we worked diligently to address the immediate situation with regard to exposures and contact tracing and all of those things, and to make sure that more people were not going to be exposed. And we asked ICE for a very simple commitment, and that was, please don't let anyone leave.
Until we know who has them here. I'm sure I can speak about it. But we asked them to please not move anybody out of the facility and not move people back into anybody into the facility until they could be medically cleared by LDH so that no one else would be exposed. And they could not make that commitment to us. And so, we had already determined that somewhere around 600 people had been
exposed over the course of weeks, and had to be medically cleared. Those included staff, and they included people who were detainees in the facility. So we went to federal court and got a federal court order, a temporary restraining order, to stop ICE from letting anybody out until they're medically cleared. And we have another hearing on Thursday in Lafayette to determine whether or not we would get a preliminary injunction that will keep that order in place while we make it clear, which takes about 10 weeks. So, the issue is under control, but it has raised a number of questions, and all of which tie back to the larger questions of why we have an open border in the first place. And that was another lawsuit that we brought in the federal courts, was an attempt to challenge the asylum rule, which was opening up the door even wider and encouraging larger and larger numbers of people to surge across that southern border, because there is so little restriction and checking, and they're not checking them medically when they come across the border. They are simply moving them into the interior of the country, and that includes to here, because we have processing facilities here that act to process some of those detainees and then move them out elsewhere. So, it is an issue of grave concern, I think, to all of us, but the bigger question is, why is the federal government facilitating the largest human trafficking operation that we've ever seen in our lifetimes through our southern border? And why are people from China traveling all the way from China to come across our southern border? And why don't we have adequate protections in place to protect us, even from a simple aspect of public health? That if they are going to come in and we have the greatest country in the world to provide opportunity for people. I understand why they want to come, but we still need to control access so that the people who are here and the people who legally came here and who are legally went through the legal processes to obtain a green card or a visa or whatever opportunity that they have are going to be prioritized over the people who are coming here illegally. So I think that that's just another example of conduct by the federal government that is affecting us here and nationally. One of the concerns that I raise about the border problem is that we have brought in, the collective, our country has allowed it under this administration, at least 8.5 million people in the last 3 years. Louisiana has something like 4.5 million people. That's twice the population of our entire state. And they have been brought into our country, and when we go through the next census, they will all presumptively be counted because they've been given legal status by this administration. So they're not hiding, they have papers. And so we count them for purposes of the census, and then that count is used to determine our congressional representation. So it affects us in terms of our ability and our representation in Congress as well. The Title IX rule that we've talked about some here today, we argued that in federal court in the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals next Monday, oddly at 5 o'clock. I've never had an argument that was set at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but this week is. That is another example of this administration's attempt to remake society in their vision through the administrative state. Title IX is a rule that was adopted, that was passed by Congress 50 years ago based on evidence that women were being denied fair opportunities both to achieve in school, in secondary education, all the way through higher education, and also in sports, and that we spent a lot of money on in sports, but we did not provide similar opportunities for women. And this has been one of the most successful federal laws that's ever been passed in terms of creating opportunities for women to achieve, both in through high school, through college, and in athletics, and ultimately that means in the Olympics and other places. So this attack on gender is certainly happening in a whole lot of areas of the federal government. It is pervasive, but this attempt to rewrite Title IX has been one of the most overt attacks that we've seen because it eviscerates Title IX. Title IX, the law that was passed initially to protect women, biological women, is now being used to protect an entirely different group of people who are biological men. It entirely changes the meaning of that law and its purpose. And this is an example of how this administration, through the administrative state, through lawyers and their wordsmithing, can take words that we've had a shared understanding and a shared meaning for, like male and female, and give them an entirely different meaning, a meaning that is subjective, that changes and can change every minute, and that is not challengeable, that it undermines any common understanding. And we've had a common understanding of those terms for somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 years, if not more. Since, I mean, so it's not insignificant, this attempt to take words that we have used. We litigated this, by the way, the first year that Jeff Landry was elected Attorney General, when John Bell Edwards passed an executive order that attempted to impose this definition of gender identity in the procurement law, and we challenged it. And we won that case in the Louisiana First Circuit Court of Appeal, and we showed, I did this through a simple Westlaw search, that there are 700 laws in Louisiana law. At that time, that was 8 years ago, 700 laws that use the term male, female, mother, father, boy, girl, he, she. And that every one of those laws was built on the foundational understanding that a male was a biological male and a female was a biological female. It underpins the entire application of every one of those laws. And so when you change the meaning of that word, you change the entirety of the law. It is now not what it was passed to mean. It means something else and something new, which, in my opinion, has to go through Congress or through the legislature. And so if they wanted to pass this law, they need to go to Congress to do it. And that preserves the separation of powers that's embedded in our federal constitution with regard to Title IX, but it would also, at the state level, with regard to our governor, preserve separation of powers there too. So I've never quite seen such an enormous attack on fundamental beliefs and principles and foundational ideals, both embedded in our federal constitution and in our federal laws, under attack like I have seen from this administration, which brings me to how important this election is to Tuesday. It is a really important election. It is an election that is going to decide whether we have a nation founded on the rule of law and on separation of powers and on fundamental liberties that are embraced by the Bill of Rights, or we have a nation, an administration that is hostile to those things and that is committed.
It's committed. Yeah, it's committed to unraveling the Constitution and rendering meaningless a lot of those fundamental liberties that have been a core part of our existence as a country from its creation. So, I had the opportunity this summer to spend some time at the D-Day beaches with a number of my colleagues who are attorney generals around the country, and we had a wreath-laying ceremony
at Omaha Beach. And then we went from there to Utah Beach and Pointe du Hoc. And if you know a little bit about that area, you know that Pointe du Hoc is the area where the kind of precursors to our Navy SEALs climbed the walls there to take out several Nazi gun batteries and infiltrate France from there so that we could bring in more reinforcements and liberate France and then liberate Europe. So it's a very, very pivotal battle in D-Day. And Ronald Reagan went there in, I think, the late 80s and recognized some of the veterans who were still alive that had survived that attack. Most of the ones who climbed that wall that day didn't, and they knew that they wouldn't. But there were still about 80, I think, who were still alive. And he recognized them there with a very, very touching speech. And in that speech, and I usually like to quote it, but I don't have the quotation with me today. I can tell you that in that speech, he asked us to never forget the sacrifice that they made for us, and that they were committed to giving their lives to liberate France, liberate Europe, and ultimately defend the rights that we have and share them and ensure that democracy and freedom around the world would be preserved from attacks by fascists like Adolf Hitler. And I do wonder today, with the kind of leadership that we have in Washington that is so hostile to those constitutional rights, and hostile to our very form of government, and hostile to the sovereignty that's built into that system that we have as states, and the important, really, really important part that we play as states, so that we can bring 50 different solutions to problems, and have that kind of give and take and friction in the system and ideas that are built in the system, so that we can decide in Louisiana what's right for us and Montana can decide what's right for Montana. That is such an important part of our system that this administration is hostile to it. So I do think that it is an important election. I think that more than anything, it is no matter who is in office in Washington, we need to be clear on what our foundational values are and our duty and our obligation to fight for them. That's why I love my job, because it gives me the ability and the privilege every day to fight for those things. And just to be clear, we've sued Donald Trump when he was president over some of those things. The fact is, most of the time we've had to sue this administration to preserve those things. But we're willing to fight whoever is there that we believe is attacking our fundamental freedoms. And we'll continue to do that at the Department of Justice. And I know that Governor Landry will do it too, because he's been my partner for the last 8 years in that.
I think we have about 5 minutes if anyone has any questions. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question.
I'd like to ask you a question about election integrity. The Constitution, the operation and election of elections is reserved to the states. All 50 states have their own election system. Right now, currently, we have about 24 states that require photo ID for voting. We have about 15 states that, about 11 that require some ID, but not photo ID. And then basically, we have 15 states that require no ID at all. One of those states is California, where they recently passed a law where they not required to even ask someone about their voter ID. So my question for you is this: even though we respect federalism, and we're all strong on that point, do you think it's time for the Supreme Court to set some minimum constitutional standards, particularly with regard to voter ID requirement from all 50 states?
Well, I mean, I think that's a complicated question in terms of whether the Supreme Court has the ability to do that. And what you're talking about really fundamentally requires legislation. And I mean, should Congress do it? I would be in favor of Congress passing a law that requires voter ID. I mean, I think that one of the problems that I face as an Attorney General representing our state is that I cannot challenge the constitutionality. It isn't federally unconstitutional for California to have a law that doesn't require voter ID. And so there isn't I don't think that the United States Supreme Court really has a basis to do that. But I think Congress does, and Congress could legislate it. And at the end of the day, I do think it is very important, because when you tether that to the border problem, we have a problem. And my tools are very limited when it comes to challenging the results of their elections when they are legally and federally in charge of setting the conditions of the elections. It's a tough problem, but I do think Congress could address it. And I think it's crazy that we wouldn't require voter ID. It's not very hard. You have to show your ID to do just about anything. So.
Ms. Burrow, my name is Mr. Cornelius Lawson, White Jr. April the 2nd, I will be down at the city council meeting for just asking the question. Do you have a civil rights division for the state? Because I'd like to know those.
No, I don't.
Is there any way I can get some help? Because look, I've been wearing the same clothes. I'm a veteran. I spent 15 years as a military police officer. So you're saying that the state can't do anything for freedom of speech?
No, sir, I'm saying that I don't have a division of civil rights in my office, that my office doesn't do that. That's the federal government that has that office.
No state office.
Thank
Thank you.
I don't have a question, but I do want to make a comment. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Sandra Franklin. I am so pleased in your expediency and your thoroughness in this case with the TV. That's major. Because it sounds like to me, and I stand to be corrected, it's akin to hypocrisy. Because these are the same principles that were placed upon us as a nation in 2020. Now they have been dispersed. So please do your due diligence, continue rather to do your due diligence in that case, because that is very important. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that too. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you all for being here. Sorry about the microphone. Please enjoy the next few